That moment happened the day I made romantic homicide, I think.
New footage just dropped, and people can't stop talking about it. David has now been caught on camera cleaning the shoes of the same young woman whose body was discovered in his car trunk. And this is sending shockwaves across the internet.
Yes, and by the way, that parking lot, we looked at it on we geotagged the photo and looked at it is about a 6-minute walk from Celeste's home where her mom.
The clip looks harmless at first glance, but when you dig deeper, the vibe turns chilling fast. Social media feeds are blowing up, with half the crowd calling it just a random act, and the other half swearing it looks like some bizarre ritual. The way David is bent low, carefully scrubbing those shoes like every move has meaning, has people spooked. Some users are saying, "This ain't no regular cleaning, this feels like a message," and that's where the story takes a darker turn. Because here's the twist. The reason this video is resurfacing right now is not by accident.
When they found
Nobody knows who decided to
Celeste
leak it back into the
Hernandez's
spotlight, but it feels deliberate. Almost like someone is trying to expose David's hidden world. Every frame looks staged, every motion comes off heavy, like there's a coded message tucked inside what should be an ordinary moment. And the timing? Suspicious as hell. Why would this video reappear now, after the body was already found? Some are whispering this might be David himself leaving breadcrumbs. Others think it's someone close to him trying to stir up chaos.
Hey,
Either way,
this ain't your
one thing is
scroll
clear.
past type clip.
The resurfacing of this footage isn't random. It feels like part of a darker plan that's finally coming to light. Think about how this nightmare even started.
It says, "Oh Celeste, the girl with my name tattooed on her."
What should have been a routine day for a couple of tow yard workers turned into one of the most disturbing crime stories the streets have seen in years. These dudes weren't expecting nothing more than moving cars and signing paperwork. But instead, they ended up stumbling into a scene straight out of a horror flick. Because when they popped that trunk and found the remains of 15-year-old Celeste Rivas Hernandez, everything flipped upside down instantly. This wasn't just another random impound job. This was a straight-up crime scene. And now all eyes are on David, the rising musician whose name is suddenly being dragged through the mud. Evidence is stacking up, and whispers on the street suggest foul play that could be started long before anybody even knew her name. On September 8, 2025, Hollywood impound workers made a discovery that sent shockwaves across the entire city. Inside the front trunk of a sleek black 2023 Tesla, stuffed in a bag, were Celeste's decomposed remains. That Tesla, registered to none other than David Anthony Burke, known in the streets simply as David. The crazy part? That car had been sitting in the lot for 5 days already, after neighbors in the Hollywood Hills complained about a nasty smell oozing from the ride. And here's where it gets even darker. The timing.
She met this dude on social media. He was a rapper in LA. He came and got her. She ran away from home. She was gone for like a month. The cops found her in Hollywood, brought her back to our school.
This teacher's account provides crucial context about the pattern of Celeste's disappearances and her connection to someone matching David's description.
She came back to our school, kind of told people this story. She disappeared again in May of that year. And then I found out yesterday that she's now dead in that rapper's car, cut into pieces.
Celeste's 15th birthday was September 7th, literally the day before her body was found. But the condition of those remains suggests she never lived to see it. Sources close to the investigation are saying the stench was so heavy, so overwhelming, that it's clear she had been gone for way longer than anyone thought. That detail alone has fueled a flood of speculation. Was this planned? Was this personal? Or was David hiding something way bigger than anyone realizes? We are not just talking about a tragic disappearance. This whole case stretches back way further than most people realize. Celeste didn't just vanish out of thin air in 2024. The signs of something twisted had been bubbling for months, maybe even years. And when you piece it all together, social media chatter, family statements, and what police are uncovering.
Luminol, which can light up a
Everyone's
floor.
seen this on CSI.
Yeah.
That they spray it and it, allows them to see where if there are traces of blood, even if it's been cleaned up.
It paints the picture of something predatory and disturbing that allegedly tied Celeste and David together long before her name ever hit headlines.
Checking drains to see if there's any, blood evidence or, blood or tissue that was in the drains there. So they did a scouring of this house looking for any evidence.
The whispers start around April 2024, when Celeste first went missing. But the darker rumors suggest that the bond between her and David may have started years earlier when she was still a young teen, while he was already in those late teen years trying to come up in the music scene.
That's not the kind of thing even a famous 20-year-old could do on his own, typically.
Those allegations sound less like a relationship and more like manipulation, the type of grooming people in the community are calling out online right now. And then there's the detail nobody can shake: the tattoos. Both Celeste and David had the exact same ink on their right index fingers. The word "shh." At first glance, you could brush it off as coincidence. After all, plenty of people get matching ink.
The one thing we have not seen is a video of Celeste or photos of Celeste in that house.
But when police connected that very tattoo to identifying Celeste's remains, it turned from coincidence to cold, hard evidence tying her directly back to David. That little piece of ink is now being treated like a smoking gun. Celeste's own mother confirmed that when her daughter went missing, she had been seeing someone named David. With that revelation, the dots connect in a way that makes this entire story feel darker, heavier, and way more sinister. Now the streets aren't just asking what happened. They were demanding to know how deep this connection really ran and how long it was kept in the shadows. This isn't gossip passed around the block. This is coming straight from the victim's own mother. She personally confirmed the connection between her daughter and David, making it one of the strongest links tying him to this tragedy. That statement alone puts David dead center in the spotlight, but the evidence piling up doesn't stop there, because now, circulating online, there's a photo that makes everything 10 times more suspicious. It shows David standing in Celeste's neighborhood, just blocks from her home, literally moments before she went missing. And here's the catch: Celeste's house was nowhere near where David lived. We're talking more than an hour's drive from his spot. So what was he doing creeping through her neighborhood? Nobody believes he was there by coincidence. The location makes this even crazier.
On Discord, and I would go on Fortnite, and I would go on like squad fills, and I just let people talk to me and just tell me about their lives. I was just being an open door and an open outlet for like my peers and my friends to kind of just like vent to me about different things in their like personal lives and stuff like that. And I would basically just take their lives and write songs about them and write songs for them, and they didn't even know it.
We're talking Lake Elsinore, California, about 70 miles east of Los Angeles. This ain't some random pit stop. This is deliberate. For David to be caught on camera in that exact area at that exact time is a piece of evidence investigators and social media detectives are dissecting frame by frame because it looks like proof that he went out of his way to be there. But the most disturbing piece of the puzzle might actually come from David himself, through his own music.
It from my mom. And whenever my mom hates something, I know it's cool. She was like, "David, this song is too violent. You're talking about killing people in your music? No, not my son." And I was like, wait, I might be onto something.
Back in December 2023, just 4 months before Celeste disappeared, a demo track leaked on SoundCloud with a chilling title, Celeste. Let that sink in. This wasn't recorded after her disappearance. It was created while their alleged relationship was still going on. The timing makes it feel less like art and more like a haunting breadcrumb left behind in plain sight.
My other songs like Take Me to the Sun and The Dirty Secrets before that, and You and I, they're all like these indie up-tempo records that you could just like do whatever to. And I played it for my mom.
Some fans are even saying the lyrics sound like confessions in disguise. And that realization has left people questioning just how much David revealed without anyone noticing. The language David used in that leaked track wasn't just obsessive, it was flat-out possessive, painting a disturbing portrait of control, intimacy, and fixation. He wasn't just rapping bars, he was revealing a dynamic that feels way darker now that everything has come to light. Lyrics about tattoos, whispers, and closeness sound less like music and more like a public diary of a dangerous connection. And the story doesn't stop with the music.
He had a show that was scheduled last night, but that one was canceled.
Adding to the mountain of evidence a Discord chat log spanning from 2021 to 2023 that allegedly showed David in contact with Celeste while she was still underage. Investigators haven't released the full contents to the public, but the fact that these messages even exist is chilling on its own. It suggests there is a whole digital trail that could connect him to her long before her disappearance, the kind of paper trail detectives dig through piece by piece to uncover the truth. The heartbreak deepened when reports confirmed Celeste had a history of running away from home.
Told early on he was cooperating with cops. Now it seems kind of unclear, but it is kind of interesting because
he's not talking to cops.
That's what we're hearing.
Police records show she was reported missing in January 2024, and then again in April, the same April she disappeared for good. This detail points to a tragic pattern, a cycle where Celeste may have been drawn back into David's orbit again and again, even as her family tried desperately to protect her. Each time she went missing, it looks more and more like David was the shadow she was running toward.
Now he knows they've searched his house. He knows what they were looking for in his house. Anything he says
is incriminating.
And then comes the most gut-wrenching detail of all. A middle school teacher from Celeste's past stepped forward, revealing things she had noticed years earlier. Her testimony cracked the story wide open because it hinted that the red flags around Celeste's situation weren't invisible at all. They were there the whole time, waiting to be recognized. The teacher's account turned out to be one of the most important pieces of context in this entire case. She didn't just describe Celeste as a kid who occasionally ran off. She painted a picture of a young girl being pulled into something bigger than herself,
when they found
connected to someone who fit
Celeste
David's
Rivas
description.
Hernandez's body.
Every time Celeste disappeared, there was a shadow behind it, and now, with hindsight, that shadow looks darker than ever. The fact that Celeste had previously been located in Hollywood, only to be brought back to school, proves this wasn't some random runaway streak. This wasn't just teenage rebellion. It points to a relationship where somebody older had a serious influence over her choices. That type of hold, especially on someone so young, is exactly why investigators and the public alike are calling this case predatory, not just tragic. And then there's the heartbreaking physical evidence that confirmed Celeste's identity. When her remains were discovered, she weighed just 71 pounds. She had wavy black hair and was found wearing a tube top, black leggings, a yellow chain bracelet, and a single stud earring. Those small but striking details, combined with the "shh" tattoo on her finger, gave forensic experts the confirmation they needed after more than a year of agonizing uncertainty for her family. What's impossible to ignore is how every piece of evidence circles back to David. The tattoos, the family's confirmation, the photo in her neighborhood, the SoundCloud track, and the repeated disappearances. None of it feels like coincidence anymore. Instead, it paints the picture of a long-running, secretive relationship that allegedly began when she was barely stepping into her teenage years, while David was stepping into adulthood. Each revelation makes this case look less like tragedy by chance and more like a chilling pattern that is only now being fully exposed. And here's where the story takes an even darker turn, because what investigators have been uncovering isn't just a street-level scandal. It's a full-blown federal situation shaking the music industry to its core. The deeper law enforcement dug into Celeste Rivas Hernandez's death, the more David's so-called come-up started looking like a collapse in slow motion. What they found didn't just shine a spotlight on him. It exposed the red flags the entire industry had been ignoring for years. On September 18, 2025, the Los Angeles Police Department executed one of the most explosive search warrants Hollywood has seen in recent memory. Their target? A Hollywood Hills mansion where David had been crashing, just blocks away from where his Tesla was abandoned and later towed. The timing, the location, everything about this raid was deliberate, and the streets immediately knew this was no ordinary search. Investigators weren't satisfied with a quick sweep. They rolled in heavy, seizing electronics, hard drives, and anything that could store a digital trail. But it didn't stop there. Their main mission? Hunting for traces of blood evidence. Using luminol, a chemical that reveals hidden stains even after cleanup, They searched every inch of that mansion like they knew something sinister had gone down behind those walls. And this wasn't just a basic operation. The thoroughness was insane. Investigators were now just checking the obvious spots like bedrooms or living areas. They dug deeper, moving into private hallways, guest rooms, bathrooms, even storage spaces, determined to find anything David might have tried to erase. The fact that law enforcement treated this mansion like a primary crime scene sent shockwaves not only through the community, but through the entire music world that once embraced David as the next big star. Reports reveal that investigators didn't just sweep the inside of the mansion. They searched every inch of the property, inside and out. Law enforcement was moving like they believed this wasn't just a hangout spot, but the very place where the foul play against Celeste might have actually gone down. And the reasoning for that? The most gruesome detail of all, the body was dismembered, and not all of Celeste's remains were ever recovered. That fact alone pushed detectives to hunt for traces of blood, tissue, and fluids in drains, sinks, showers, and anywhere a cleanup could have taken place.
The property itself told its own story, and it spoke volumes about David's lifestyle and connections in the music game. This wasn't some low-rent crash pad. The Hollywood Hills estate was being rented under the name of Josh Marshall, David's manager, who reportedly has ties to Interscope Records. That connection dragged the industry deeper into the storm, forcing people to ask whether major players ignored warning signs about David because of his talent and potential profit. And the money trail made the whole thing even more suspicious.
The estate cost a jaw-dropping $20,000 a month to rent, the type of price tag that raises serious questions about who was funding David's lifestyle and how deep the support around him really ran. But when investigators compared that financial setup with David's own social media presence, the link was undeniable. Post after post showed him inside the mansion, lounging in the living room, recording in makeshift studios, flexing by the pool. Even if the lease wasn't in his name, the photos made one thing clear. David wasn't just passing through. He was living there. If not permanently, then often enough to leave a heavy trail of evidence behind. On top of everything else, David himself left behind digital breadcrumbs that keep haunting him. He wasn't just living in that Hollywood Hills mansion. He was flexing it online, posting photos from the property, showing off the views, the luxury, even inviting industry folks over. Reports claim he entertained names like Benny Blanco and the group Cat S.I. right there in the house. But while investigators haven't yet found a physical link tying Celeste to the mansion, the absence itself raises questions. Was there really nothing to find, or was any trace of her deliberately wiped away? Even without that hard physical proof, investigators uncovered another smoking gun: digital evidence. Photos have surfaced showing David and Celeste together in ways that go way beyond coincidence. One of the most damning pieces is a live stream where David and Celeste appeared side by side, chatting with his fans in real time. And here's where it gets messy. At one point, David allegedly told the moderators to make sure the stream didn't stay up once it ended. That detail speaks volumes. It suggests he already knew how dangerous it would be for their public interactions to circulate online, and he was actively trying to cover his tracks. But the photo that really shook people to their core, a shot of David and Celeste at an event in Los Angeles back in October 2023. The timing makes it hit even harder. She had just turned 13, while David was already 17 or 18. Seeing them side by side at an industry event in public has left fans and investigators stunned. The optics of that image alone destroy the coincidence narrative and paint their connection as something much darker, something hiding in plain sight the entire time. As the investigation gained steam, the music industry wasted no time doing what they do best in times of scandal: damage control. David went from being hyped as a breakout star to being treated like a ghost overnight. Labels, brands, and platforms started sprinting away from him faster than his own fans could refresh their feeds, and the fallout was brutal. First, his entire Withered World tour, which was set to cover North America and Europe, got completely cancelled. No postponement, no rescheduling talk, just wiped off the map. Interscope Records then froze his album release indefinitely, leaving his so-called big moment dead in the water. For a young artist, that kind of suspension isn't just a setback, it's career suicide. But the collapse didn't stop there. Major brands scrambled to cut ties with him. Crocs and Hollister pulled his face from their campaigns instantly. Kali Uchis didn't just back away quietly. She pulled their collaborative track altogether, scrubbing his name off her catalog. Even Fortnite got in on the distancing, renaming his emote to erase any trace of his likeness. And the Grammy Museum? They erased his scheduled appearance and yanked all related merch, including the infamous bloody shirts and blood-soaked outfits that he used to flaunt in performances and videos. What once looked like edgy branding now feels chilling in light of the case. But here's the twisted irony. While the industry washed their hands of David, the public couldn't look away.
Streams of his track Romantic Homicide skyrocketed, shooting up 102 spots on the global Spotify charts right after the news broke. Suddenly, lyrics once seen as brooding artistry sounded like confessions in disguise. The song's origins now carry a chilling weight, forcing fans and critics alike to question whether David had been hiding his darkness in plain sight through his music all along. Even David's own words about his creative process now sound haunting in the wake of these allegations.
Before the scandal blew up, he used to talk about how he pulled inspiration from real-life moments, describing his art in unsettling terms that people brushed off as just edgy creativity. But with everything we know now, those same comments raise a terrifying question. Whose life experiences was he really mining for his music? And were some of his biggest songs basically confessions hiding in plain sight? Take Romantic Homicide, for example. David admitted that even his own mother hated the song when he first played it for her. Instead of holding him back, that negative reaction convinced him to release it anyway. At the time, it was framed as a rebellious moment, an artist refusing to censor himself. But now, in light of the case, that decision feels a lot darker. It's as if the pushback only fueled him to lean deeper into violent themes that may not have been fiction at all. The industry is now under fire for missing the red flags. Critics are asking how executives, managers, and collaborators ignored songs dripping with obsession, rage, and violence while praising David as the next big thing. When you line up the themes in his catalog against the allegations of his relationship with Celeste, it doesn't look like art imitating life. It looks like art documenting something far more disturbing. And the lyrics themselves, they're chilling. In Romantic Homicide, David says, "In the back of my mind, I killed you, and I didn't even regret it. I can't believe I said it, but it's true. I hate you." Once dismissed as raw emotional songwriting, those bars now sound like a timeline stamped in music, a disturbing reflection of a relationship that investigators believe was already spiraling out of control. Fans are asking, were we all singing along to what was essentially a confession the whole time? As law enforcement digs deeper and the music industry scrambles to cut ties, one piece of the puzzle still hasn't been laid out in full view: David's own response. What has he said? What has he denied? What has he admitted? The answer is chilling. Nothing. Absolute silence. And in the streets, we all know, sometimes silence speaks louder than any statement. With the evidence stacking higher and higher, the tattoos, the photos, the live streams, the music, even the mansion raid, David Anthony Burke has chosen to say nothing at all. While social media stays flooded with theories, leaked receipts, and non-stop outrage, David hasn't offered so much as a single denial. No apology, no explanation, not even a shady subtweet. That kind of radio silence has only made the public more suspicious and more convinced that he's hiding something massive. The last time anyone saw him in public was in Seattle, where he performed live just days before LAPD stormed the Hollywood Hills mansion. Since that moment, he's essentially vanished from the spotlight. No more concerts, no more posts, no paparazzi shots, nothing. And in an industry where visibility is everything, that type of disappearance feels less like a break and more like an escape. But here is where it gets even heavier. Insiders tied to the investigation have revealed details that flip the whole silence narrative on its head. Sources say David hasn't just gone quiet with the media, he's stonewalled investigators too. Behind closed doors, he's allegedly refused to cooperate, leaving law enforcement frustrated as they try to connect the final dots. That refusal to engage changes everything, because now his silence isn't just suspicious, it's potentially strategic. And in the streets, people are already whispering, is he staying quiet because he's guilty, or because he knows the truth could be even darker than anyone imagined? When it comes to David's silence, the streets actually understand the logic, at least from a legal standpoint. If investigators are tearing through your mansion with luminol, checking drains for blood and tissue, and basically treating your spot like a crime scene, the last thing any lawyer would advise is for you to keep talking. Shutting up isn't just strategy, it's survival. To keep speaking without legal counsel in that kind of situation would be beyond reckless. But here's where it gets even more unsettling. The silence isn't just coming from David. Law enforcement has been just as tight-lipped. The LAPD isn't playing the usual press conference game or dropping regular updates to the public. Instead, they're keeping everything locked down, holding information closer than almost any case we've seen in recent years. That level of secrecy has sparked comparisons to other high-profile investigations, like the Brian Kohberger case, where the cops released barely anything while the public kept demanding answers. The difference here, though, is massive. In Kohberger's case, people didn't know who the suspect was until law enforcement revealed it. But with David, everybody already sees him as the central figure. His car, his mansion, his music, his tattoos, all the threads tie back to him. Which raises the question everyone's been shouting online. If the evidence is stacking this high, what more do investigators actually need before they make it official and name David as a suspect? The fact that they haven't yet is leaving the public restless, conspiracy theories running wild, and the industry sweating bullets wondering how deep this case is about to go. One of the most revealing parts of this entire case is the role social media has played, both as a tool of connection and as the platform of exposure. The same apps that may have first brought David and Celeste into contact have now become the very spaces where the evidence against him is being pieced together in real time. Reddit threads, Twitter timelines, and TikTok breakdowns are moving faster than official police reports, with self-proclaimed internet detectives compiling receipts, building timelines, and connecting dots at lightning speed. But this kind of digital rush also raises a dangerous question. Are we watching real justice unfold, or is the world slipping into mob justice before the courts even weigh in? Meanwhile, the fan response has been explosive. For years, supporters saw David as a voice for the misunderstood, an artist who put raw emotions into his music. Now those same fans are reeling, saying they feel betrayed by someone they once idolized. Online communities are split. Some refuse to play his songs ever again, while others can't stop streaming them, arguing the music should be separated from the man. The divide is deep, and the outrage has only grown as people question whether the industry itself turned a blind eye to obvious red flags. And those warning signs? In hindsight, they look impossible to ignore. Beyond the chilling lyrics of Romantic Homicide and the eerie Celeste demo, fans are now pointing out disturbing imagery in David's music videos. Characters resembling Celeste, violent undertones, and visual references that echo her real-life identity. Even his alter ego, It For My Eye, leaned heavily into dark themes tied to Celeste's personal interests. One of the most haunting details? Hello Kitty imagery, the same motif tied to the sandals Celeste was last seen wearing. What once looked like harmless branding now feels like a breadcrumb trail hiding in plain sight, waiting to be decoded. The investigation has also laid bare the heartbreaking reality of Celeste's final months, and it's devastating to piece together. She wasn't just a one-time runaway. She was reported missing multiple times, first in January 2024, then again in April. That pattern suggests something far more sinister than simple rebellion. Each time she disappeared, She was likely being pulled into David's orbit in Los Angeles, slipping further away from her family's protection and deeper into a world she never should have been in. Every return home seems to have tightened his grip on her life, until finally she didn't come back at all. For her family, the pain is indescribable. Not only are they living through the horror of losing a daughter, but they've been forced to grieve in the public eye while the case explodes across headlines and social media.
Celeste's relatives launched a GoFundMe just to cover funeral costs, an unimaginable burden to carry while also dealing with the circus of public speculation. And her mother's confirmation that Celeste was dating someone named David when she vanished may be the hardest statement she has ever had to make. That one acknowledgement turned suspicion into reality, forever tying David's name to her daughter's story. And yet, with all the shocking evidence that's surfaced, the case remains riddled with unanswered questions.
Will the forensic sweep of that Hollywood Hills mansion finally produce the blood evidence prosecutors need to lock him in as a suspect? Will the seized electronics uncover an even darker digital trail? Messages, files, photos that connect him directly to Celeste's last days? And perhaps the biggest question of all, will David finally break his silence? Or will his legal team keep playing the non-cooperation card while the world demands answers? One thing is clear, this case isn't cooling down. It's only getting hotter, and every new revelation pulls the streets, the industry, and the courts deeper into one of the darkest scandals the music world has seen in years. The ripple effects of this case stretch far beyond David and Celeste, and that is what makes it so disturbing. This isn't just the downfall of one musician or the tragedy of one victim. It forces us to confront uncomfortable truths about the music industry, social media, and the culture we've built around celebrity. How many young artists are being shielded while their darkest behaviors are ignored in the name of profit? How many social media platforms have become hunting grounds where predators thrive under the radar? And how many red flags in lyrics, videos, and online posts are brushed aside until it's already too late? For now, the investigation grinds on. LAPD's Robbery Homicide Division is combing through seized electronics, digging into digital forensics from the Hollywood Hills mansion, and tracking down leads that could finally break this case wide open. Wild rumors have started circulating online, whispers about pregnancy, speculation about dismemberment, but none of that has been officially confirmed. Still, the fact that people even believe these rumors shows just how toxic and chaotic the atmosphere around David has become. What we do know is undeniable. This case has already shifted how we think about the deadly mix of fame, music, and exploitation. It has exposed how easily warning signs can be hidden in plain sight. From lyrics like romantic homicide to eerie demos named after Celeste, from live streams to cryptic tweets, the signs were there. But instead of being confronted, they were ignored, rationalized, or even celebrated as artistic expression. The industry chose profit, fans chose entertainment, and in the middle of it all, a young girl lost her life. This isn't just one story anymore. It is a spotlight on a broken system, one that will have to answer hard questions as this case barrels toward the courtroom and the world keeps watching. The timing of this case is nothing short of haunting. Celeste's birthday was September 7th, the very same date David's breakout track Romantic Homicide was released. Was that a chilling coincidence, or was it intentional? Investigators are reportedly digging into that detail, because either way, the connection is impossible to ignore. And now, in the aftermath of Celeste's death, that same song is exploding on the charts again, creating a disturbing feedback loop where tragedy is being consumed as entertainment. Fans are streaming, dissecting, and quoting lyrics that suddenly feel more like confessions than art. This is where the case gets even more complex, because it forces us to question the blurred line between music and reality. At what point are violent or obsessive bars just dark artistic expression? And when do they cross the line into being a confession or a threat? In David's case, that leaked Celeste demo takes the debate to a chilling place. With its references to tattoos, obsession, and intimacy, now paired with the fact that he and Celeste actually had matching tattoos, it feels less like imagination and more like evidence hiding in plain sight. Art imitating life in the most disturbing way possible. And while investigators continue building the homicide case, legal experts are already warning that charges may come down regardless of whether David is directly tied to Celeste's death. Why? Because the evidence of an inappropriate relationship with a minor is already substantial. Add in the disturbing reports of him allegedly messaging other underage girls, and prosecutors may have more than enough to pursue charges tied to exploitation, grooming, and misconduct. The walls are closing in, and whether or not homicide sticks, David could still be facing years behind bars once this all lands in court. The toll this case has taken on Celeste's family is beyond words. Losing a child is already every parent's worst nightmare, but losing her like this, under suspicious, public, and highly scrutinized circumstances, has magnified their grief 1,000 times over. Every new headline, every leaked detail, every theory blasted across social media forces them to relive the trauma in front of millions of strangers. Yet through it all, they've carried themselves with a dignity and strength that can't be overstated. Cooperating with investigators, speaking publicly when necessary, and holding their family together in the face of unimaginable pain shows just how strong they are. This case is a harsh reminder of what often gets lost when these stories turn into trending topics. Behind the speculation, the industry fallout, and the viral debates is a real family, mourning a real loss. Celeste Rivas Hernandez wasn't just a name on a headline or another hashtag in the feed. She was a 15-year-old girl with a future ahead of her, a daughter, a friend, someone with dreams that were stolen far too soon. And her story is now a stark symbol of how easily warning signs can be overlooked until it is too late. Meanwhile, the silence from David and his legal team, while it might make sense from a strategic standpoint, stands in sharp contrast to the storm of evidence, outrage, and heartbreak swirling around this case. For the public, that silence feels cold. For Celeste's loved ones, it feels like one more wound on top of the tragedy they're already living through. And as investigators keep pulling back the layers, one thing is becoming clear. David's silence won't last forever. The weight of the evidence, the noise from the public, and the relentless media spotlight will eventually force his hand. Whether through the courts, through his lawyers, or in some final public statement, that silence will crack. The only question left is when, and what exactly he'll say when it does. But no matter how this case plays out legally, the damage is already permanent. Celeste's family will never get their daughter back. No verdict, no sentence, no amount of justice can fill that void. For them, the loss is forever. David's career, once on the brink of superstardom, has already collapsed. Even if he somehow avoids conviction, the industry has washed its hands of him. His name is tainted, his songs now carry a chilling weight, and the future he dreamed of is gone. And for the wider music world, this scandal is a mirror, forcing an industry to ask why red flags were ignored, why disturbing lyrics were brushed off, and why profit was placed above accountability. So now I'll leave the question with you. How do you think this case ends? Will David face justice, or will his silence protect him a little longer? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. And if you want to dive deeper into stories like this, click the next video on your screen, because this saga is far from over.